So, Clinton, last but not least, what is NorthStar? Where can we find out more about NorthStar?
So the first thing I want to say is there's a challenge that exists that has called us into existing, and it's the geography and geospatial capabilities shape many public and private policies and many practices, and many people aren't even aware of that. Leaders and policymakers use geographic data and geospatial intelligence for things like pandemic response, federal infrastructure plans, figuring out where to invest in education locally. You use these tools in your ride sharing apps like Uber, and when you order something from Amazon, this stuff is used extensively. So we're talking an area of tech that is in high demand and is fun and exciting. And it's also an area of science that informs policy and impacts communities. But unfortunately, very often, these policies and these practices that are informed by GIS often lead to racial disparities, or they sustain racial disparities. And on top of that, many of the people who are involved in that work, well, they either don't look like us, or for those who do, they're not always invited to the tables that really matter. NorthStar exists to try to create what I talk about sometimes as a Geo-Stem community that centers on intersectional racial justice, meaning a community of all the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math that relate to geography. So there's geospatial, there's GIS, there's marine science, marine microbiology, ecology, archaeology. We want to make sure that when folks are doing their mapping work, doing their analysis, that they are considering people as a primary stakeholder and ensuring that the results of their work will lead to more racial justice. And we also want to make sure that the people who do that practice better reflect the Black African diaspora, but also other underrepresented groups as well. So we do that work by trying to bring together practitioners in Geo-Stem, focus on improving practices in Geo-Stem, and creating spaces where people from all backgrounds can find a sense of belonging. Some of the main ways that we do that is literally to engage people around events. We have a Black History Month event series coming up, and as with every year, we look to the Black History Month theme for the year as for inspiration, and this year it's Black resistance. So we've expanded that concept to think about ideas of resilience, resistance, and empowerment in Black communities across many different topics like climate and environment, food systems, and food security. So thinking about the importance of growing locally and small scale farming, health equity, community engagement, and really positive practices for justice, equity, and belonging across Geo-Stem. So we're going to open up our conversation for the year around those topics during this month in February. And later in the year, we'll have a big gathering of folks from across the globe, both virtual and in person in the DC area that we call Homecoming. So we're excited to invite people from across the globe who see themselves as geography professionals or people working in spaces related to geography to join in those conversations and be a part of the change.